Alderperson Sarian made the motion, Alderperson Bailey seconded it. It was unanimous that that we come out of closed session at 7:42. Okay, so let's go down to item 35. Decision regarding a 2026-2027 operator license for Aurora Nano Bacero. Does the council wish to take any action?
I move to grant an operator's license
Is there a
for
second?
Aurora Nuno Becerra.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Druzwicki. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. So you passed. So you'll contact her office tomorrow, right?
Our office will reach out to you tomorrow with your
Okay.
license information.
Okay, you can go. Thanks. All right. So now we're going to go to item 32 and 36. We don't need to go into closed session for those items, right? Do we? I don't think so. So as part of this, so this is like the Seventh Amendment to the second, well, it's the Seventh Amendment to the Second Development Agreement. Is it the second or the third? So, okay, so when you start hearing things like there's 7 amendments, it's like there's a lot of stuff going on over the course of time, right? So Cobalt is here, and what they wanted to do, because it's sort of, it can get confusing, right? It's like, well, what do you mean this restaurant? What do you mean? So wanted to provide a more universal global overview of what's going on, okay? Which Deb and Mr. Yauk apparently have been vigorously going through negotiations and discussions to make sure that the city, Deb, that our interests are taken care of, and Scott to be in another magazine cover or something. That's it, probably. No, I don't know. No, so if we have it, can we start it? Yeah, come on up, and I think there's a mic there.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Close the
This
ads.
one's, they might not be. So this, is it on your, are your monitors working? So this is trying to put everything that's happened with TID 6 and TID 8 in perspective.
As best as I can do that. Good evening, Scott Yauk with Cobalt Partners. Thank you for letting us present before you this evening, and thanks for having the rain clear up a little bit. It was pretty heavy coming down a little bit ago. But so just wanted to give an update, as the mayor indicated, and we're going to go through just real briefly 84 South and then Loomis Crossing. And so project updates, some of this you know, but it kind of picks up where some of the prior amendments left off. We've got a site plan that shows all of, and you guys see this in your screen in front of you, right? Okay. Where we left off previously, there's really one remaining parcel now at 84 South, which is the one highlighted in yellow, and that's the one between Steinhoffels and the parking structure for the Aurora Medical Office Building. If you want to go to the next slide. Again, some of the images of what was there prior to this, you're all certainly aware of it, but you know, we're really proud of a lot of the buildings that were there in the architecture and where this is, and we are down now to the final parcel. When we were here back in 2015, it's a long time ago, and set up the TID and the PUD, we had projected increment about 114 million. As of the most recent report this year, it's 226 million, so it's significantly higher than originally projected. So that's certainly good news. Recent things we've completed here are Cooper's Hawk, as you know, on the corner. That I think has really been very successful, and we're pleased with what's going on there. For the next week, Chipotle, that you know, opened recently, and then we've got Starbucks that also opened recently, and then Cava is going to be opening in the place where Mod Pizza used to be. Mod closed down most of their Wisconsin locations, but Cava's coming in. People are really excited about that. So again, the one remaining parcel, I know that the mayor has made it no no secret that he'd love to see a hotel here. And we've been working on some other retail options at that last location, but I think a hotel really brings a nice component to a mixed-use development. You know, it's nice to have the grocery, it's nice to have the medical office building, the residential, and the right mix of restaurants. A hotel would be a nice addition to that. This particular hotel flag is called Cobblestone, and they're based in Neenah, Wisconsin. They've got about 160 hotels in about 29 states. We had gone to the grand opening, and I know the mayor attended and Alderman Bailey attended as well, and got to tour. That's a very nice product. We have other hotels that we own and operate, some Home2 Suites and Spring Hills. This was the inside and the finishes were just as nice as those products. It was really very impressive. So we are working with this group to bring the hotel to this final parcel at 84 South. They tend to be in, I would say, they're not in the larger cities. They tend to be in cities, you know, the size of Greenfield and even smaller. They've got 3 different product offerings, but this is their highest end offering. They call it the upscale Main Street product. It would have a pool. It's got kind of a lounge area. The one we toured has a restaurant. That wouldn't be the case here, but it has business centers, conference rooms, fitness centers. There's a couple suites, and then there's just the regular, you know, non-suite rooms as well. You can go to the next one. They've got a rewards program and so forth. They're excited about that location and kind of the mix of the amenities that are there. So that's the latest 84 South. 84 South, and I'm sure Attorney Tomczyk will talk a little bit about this. You may recall there was a point in time, I forgot when it was, but one of those amendments when there's some transfer from TID 6, which is 84 South, to TID 8, which is Loomis Crossing. So a lot of what happens at 84 South, some of that feeds into Loomis Crossing, so it's good that 84 South has been the success that it is. So then going to Loomis Crossing, you can go on to the next one if you would, please, thanks. This was back when we kicked off this project. There were a number of parcels, a fair amount of acreage here in two phases, 2 sides of the interstate, as you know, and it had a very low tax base, a little over $6 million of tax base. So ultimately, this will be close to 80 million of increment. We assembled all these various parcels at the time to make all this work. If you want to go on to the next one. I don't think I'll go through. These are slides from last time, but really there was a number of challenges here. There was the old DOT park and ride. It was tax exempt. There's the ATC transmission lines that run through there. There were some other AT&T infrastructure that had to be removed. There has been a fair amount of environmental cleanup, nothing real significant, but things that are spread out given some of the prior uses that were there. So we had a number of challenges to work through. At the same time, assembling lands that are ultimately going to be conveyed to the turf park along with the parking facility and parking area that we're building there. Go to the next one. I think I hit all those things. You can go on to the next one. And so again, a lot of the images of what you see there today, and if you see in the lower right corner, that's the parking lot that's under construction. If anyone's been by recently, you see we got all the curb and gutter in, or most of it in. Today, I know the mayor gets out there a lot and checks on what's going on, and we're making good progress. That parking lot will be in the next couple weeks. We've got 2 of the multifamily buildings are complete at Loomis Crossing Apartments. We had a meeting today with our partner on that. We're at 100% occupancy right now. There's no vacancies at the moment. That ebbs and flows every month, but we've had steady lease up there. The last building is 114 units, which is the largest of the 3 buildings. Will open next June, so you can see that if you drive by, certainly under construction, and we're on schedule there. If you want to go on to the next one. So I'm going to leave this to Debbie, but there were some things that in the amendment that you see today really is cities and, you know, secured throughout the duration of kind of these amendments, and that you know, that the structure set up in a way that certainly is protective of the city and the taxpayers, and I'll let Attorney Tomczyk talk about that. If you want to go to the next one, please. You can go one more. There's a number of costs, though, that are being covered in excess of about $5 million for land that was acquired. There was a point when the city had purchased some of the parcels that were there for about $1.3 million. Those dollars were paid by the project back to the city, as well as other parcels that we acquired. All of that land, which is in excess of $3 million of purchase price will be conveyed to the city along with the construction of the parking lot for the turf, as well as the former DOT park and ride lot, which through the efforts of the city, the number of parking stalls at the DOT wanted to retain went from about 150 down to 39, something like that, mid-30s. So that certainly helped. That demand for the parking really hasn't been there anymore. Again, Loomis Crossing Apartments, you'll see we're in the final building, which is the one in the farthest background, right? That's under construction now. If you want to go to the next one. Just a couple images of what you might recall a little bit before we started, not too long ago. It's kind of hard to remember what was there, but it's quite a change, as well as the Loomis or Layton reconstruction and now the Loomis Bridge. So that area has really seen a big transformation, I think. Get some more images of the apartments. And then the final phase now is the technology park. And we've been through all the approval process for the buildings there. There's 3 buildings totaling about 250,000 square feet. The first 2 buildings, go back just one for a second. The one at the very top that's outlined is Building A, and then Building C is the one down at the bottom. The top one's about 122,000 square feet. The one down along the freeway is 89,000 square feet. Those 2 will start construction in September. That's our plan. We're really ready to go, and frankly, down to the wire. If we need to release some things as early as tomorrow, so I'm glad we're here today on precast that has to be poured. Otherwise, we'll miss the window. But that's Building A, and there's a next slide just shows an image of what that building's like. These, as you may recall from when we came through the process before, are really what's called flex-type buildings. So they have a office component. Typically, 20 to 40% of these are an office-type use with other either processing, showroom, things in the back of the building. So they're not heavy-duty industrial buildings. They're quasi-office buildings. The next one, that's just a floor plan of that building. And then Building C, the one at the bottom, is similar in look. They'll all have a uniform look. And then the last one, I think, is just a floor plan. So that's kind of the overall. I just want to show you some images and kind of pictures of what's going on, what the plan is. I can answer any questions if you want now, and certainly turn it over to.
It's probably up to Deb now.
Yeah, okay. Any questions up there I can answer? Just done.
My only question is, how many projects does Cobalt have in the works in southeastern Wisconsin at this very moment?
Well, there's probably 10-ish. Some happen and some don't happen. So you never know what's going to go all the way through and what isn't. So sometimes projects are out there that are underway that, for whatever reason, a user doesn't materialize or there's due diligence issues. But yeah, it's in that range.
I just am concerned about the ones in Greenfield, quite honestly. Can you
Well,
prioritize those?
Yeah, we are. Well, it's going to sound like I'm sucking up, and maybe I am, but this 84 South has been a really special project from us from the beginning, and it was one of our early projects, really second to the one in Menominee Falls. So we love that project. This project finishes everything out. This will actually fully build out 84 South and fully build out everything at Loomis. And I think if you look at the quality of the buildings, the architecture, they're really, I think they're pretty special. Any other questions I can answer about the slides? Okay, I'll get out of the way.
Hi, Debbie Tomczyk with Reinhardt Berner, and we have been special counsel to the city on the 84 South and the Loomis Crossing projects. And you all should be commended because, as Mr. Yelk indicated, the successes here are really admirable. And I think admired by other municipalities as well. I didn't kill a bunch of trees to bring copies of all documents, but we're happy to do that. Really, the documents themselves are pretty simple. There are 2 amendments to existing development agreements, as the mayor indicated. There's a 7th amendment to the 84 South Development Agreement and a 2nd amendment to the Loomis Crossing Development. But this is a summary of the terms that we've been negotiating. We do ask that we're not 100% final, but I think we're just down to language changes at this point. And I know there are timelines that people are trying to meet to keep the development on track. So in the 84 South Development Agreement, as Mr. Yelk indicated, when there was a projection of $114 million worth of value increment, and you're already at $227 million of value increment, so almost double what was projected. And that has created another great opportunity for the city because there is positive increment that can be allocated and has been allocated already to undertake some infrastructure improvements, the turf, things that didn't have a source of funds without that 84 South increment. So what's being proposed in that 84 South amendment is that up to $6 million of positive increment would be allocated from TID 6 for infrastructure, for the turf's parking lot. And those are things that Mr. Yauk indicated his company's already started to undertake, have already been constructed. So we're incurring the cost already for that infrastructure work, and we need to pay for it. In the meantime, we've gone back and forth with our financial consultant with Ellers to make sure that we can still continue to cash flow, pay existing debt, pay what's projected in all of everything that's coming forward. And we've asked for commitments from Cobalt to do all the wonderful things that you saw on the screen and to make sure that our projections of revenue will actually be realized. So the one remaining pad that has yet to be developed at 84 South will generate additional increment, another $8.5 million worth of value, and we're asking to ensure that Cobalt actually produces that. That's really the essence of what's happening at the 84 South Development Agreement Amendment. It's actually pretty simple on that side.
Just to be clear too, with regard to the $6 million of transfer, about $1 million, $1.2 million is for the turf, and I think it's about right. And the rest is for the traffic signals and for the rest of the stuff that's required.
I actually think one of the slides had everything
Does it have that on
enumerated.
there?
It was
Sorry, I
back
might be
further.
wrong, but
It was the one that my old eyes, it was, go forward. It was with the highlighted yellow. That was the one I couldn't read because there you go. That's actually the enumeration of what that infrastructure cost is. On the Loomis Crossing side, again, we're looking at a second amendment. We've already actually there achieved $48 million worth of value increment, and that's with the medical office building that's completed and the 2 multifamily buildings that are complete. As you know, the third one is under construction, and Cobalt is committing to complete that timely so that we have additional increment that's being generated. They're also committing to the development at the technology park to the north. And Cobalt, again, when working through all the projections with Ellers, they're committing to and recording shortfall covenants on the properties that they own to make sure that the revenues that we're projecting are actually generated so that we're sure we have that cash flow that we need to continue to pay the bills. In fact, Scott is actually personally guaranteeing a couple of the significant payments that will be needed through that cash flow, $500,000 in 2027, $550,000 in 2030. And then the city's obligation will be to allocate those TID 6 increments, primarily for infrastructure, for the turf, for the technology park, including the signal. And the city has an existing mortgage that they will retain on the third of the 3 technology park pads at the north. And that also enables us to make sure that performance continues to happen. But then when we refinance some existing bonds that are outstanding in 2029, we'd have some additional borrowing, $2.75 million, to fully fund out all the infrastructure at Loomis North, including the turf, and be able to have the city release a guarantee that's currently outstanding on one of the borrowings that's out there. Other development things that we'll be considering is one of the extra potential developments at Loomis Crossing would be a potential restaurant pad. And then there'd also be consideration, and these are things you haven't committed to, but you'd also have to consider an existing static billboard at 10123 West Oklahoma being converted to a digital billboard so that would generate some additional revenue. So those are things that will be additional revenue sources for some of the North Loomis development. We have negotiated almost all of the language in the 2 amendments, and we have copies of all those, but we're not quite final, and we would ask that if you're considering these 2 amendments, that you delegate to staff to work on the final details and then authorize the mayor and the clerk once we have final documents and all exhibits, including Eller's final blessing on the projections, which we now have Department of Revenue numbers for to validate that all of our numbers are correct. And then only when everything is signed, when the recorded shortfall covenants that Cobalt is committing to make sure that they can make those payments and that the revenue we're expecting will be in place, only then would we actually consider the additional transfer of the TID 6 funds. Sounds like a lot. Questions, thoughts?
I do have one question about, it says your third bullet point, 84 South, with preference for a hotel.
Yes.
So if the hotel does not happen, what is going to be there?
I don't want to speak to what.
And how,
But my concern is mostly the revenue part of it. So they're agreeing that the revenue that we've projected from a development that I think you may have heard about in the past will be there, whether the development happens or whether it's a different development. And I'll let Scott answer what that would be.
Yeah, the plan, we had been working on a retail, it's a combined, it's 30,000 square feet of two retailers, one of which is done and approved through what they call real estate committee. All these national retailers kind of go through this process. The second one is not to that point yet. They went through a first round of it and had approval, which is preliminary. So we do have a backup that we could probably pursue, but the preference now has been the hotel. We're on board with that idea. We like it, and I think I don't see anything really getting in the way of the hotel moving forward. So I think that's likely what you'll see. If I add one other thing too, and I know Attorney Tomczyk mentioned this allocation of those dollars. Right now, there's a model, there's a financial model that you referenced that Ellers puts together. We go through it every year with Ellers and with city staff, and it gets updated to reflect all the actual numbers. Nothing in this plan right now transfers more money than was previously transferred. It moves it up. So we've had these conversations, and I know Attorney Tomczyk might not, you don't disagree, but she probably doesn't want to make those representations. But we're not, there's not an additional transfer of dollars. That amount is staying fixed. What's happening is the recent numbers that came back at 84 South are about 10 million higher than we projected. Now, I want to get complicated. The mill rate has to be determined yet, so that could change what that revenue is, but we're 10 million higher. We had a very conservative projection, so we're 10 million higher on the equalized value than what we thought we were. So there's added revenue, and then with the development at Loomis, there's about 25 million of additional development there. So that's helping create all those sources. So again, there's not an additional transfer. The amount of transfer that's been authorized was authorized by the council, and that number doesn't change, and I don't think it can change without further authorization. So it's not changing. The timing is moving up to do some of this work is really the difference.
So going back to my question.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It sounds like you're.
I'm like a politician. I answer that wrong question.
It
Sorry.
sounds like you're fairly certain that the hotel will happen, or.
Yeah,
But if it doesn't,
if it doesn't,
Then
then
we-
it would be retail, but I mean, we can't, it took that parcel, and maybe to Alderman Castor's point, it isn't our lack of focus on that. I mean, retail, we kind of, it really leased up quickly, and then it kind of petered out for a while. We had COVID and a lot of other things that happened. So the other problem is, if you look kind of universally, there's almost no new retail construction happening without TIF. The numbers just have not caught up, the rents that they're willing to pay. So that's been a bit of a struggle as well. But they're starting to recognize they got to pay a little more rent. So we're very close under a different user group, being those two retailers. But the hotel will happen. I feel pretty confident. I mean, they're ready to move forward.
great. And then I just have a question about the digital billboard.
Yes.
Which I'm not really excited about. But can you tell me a little bit about, is that going to disturb?
It's the
some
location of
of
an
the-
existing sign that was there, about 110th in Oklahoma. And so we're able to, by converting it to digital, a couple things happen. One, and we can create more revenue, so there's a $250,000 that we kind of commit as a result of that conversion to helping the gap. We had a gap on here, and as Attorney Tomczyk mentioned, through a lot of efforts, that turned into us coming up with about $1.1 million, roughly toward that, and one source was through that. The other thing with those digital signs, you can create this condition where the diodes are faced a certain way, and if you move out of a certain distance, you don't see it, they kind of black out, so they adjust at night from an ambient perspective, so it's, and we also allow some, community service announcements and public usage on there. We've done that in the past with the turf.
Why am I having a hard time figuring out where 110th and
No,
Oklahoma is?
so
like-
this is the off-ramp to get off on
by the
Oklahoma coming
printers?
southbound.
It's
Yeah.
by the rehabilitation.
I would
hospital,
call that more
just
of a
north
100
of the rehabilitation hospital by that
First?
printing
Yeah, it's
shop.
basically 101st.
Not 10th.
There's
Scott-
existing static sign that was there, we just took it
110th
down.
would be West Dallas.
Are you
Is it 101st? I forget, is it 101 or 110? 101, I'm sorry, I got my,
So with regard to that sign, there isn't any intrusion into residential properties or anything. It's clearly on the freeway.
yeah.
And just to be clear,
Well,
we're not
West
asking-
Dallas across the street.
They're not asking for that now, but they're asking us to, essentially, when it comes through, to be,
So we're not asking for any approvals of any development opportunities, including the static sign today, other than that you'd consider it if it comes forward. We're not asking you to approve what happens at A2 definitively on the Loomis Crossing, or on, I'm sorry, on 84 South. What we are asking for is the financial deal, that you'd consider approval of the financial deal. And all the things we talked about are components that will provide revenue to make sure the financial deal works.
How did Cobalt get control of that location?
on Oklahoma.
Yeah,
I think they probably bought the sign.
We did, yeah, correct.
sign, just the sign?
Well, an easement and,
The
yeah,
lease.
it's really, it's an easement, yeah.
Okay.
Um,
So the building that's in the current
That be,
shape,
yeah,
will-
not the building, no.
that will stay the same
It's,
as
yeah,
the
it's a little rough.
And we, on that highlighted list, you showed that you have to make additional costs to make it a city standards. Does that mean we're taking possession of the streets?
What are you talking about?
I didn't follow, sorry.
I don't know, it's halfway down, we got
That maybe is.
sub-road and utilities at city standards, 825.
Oh,
Does
is that in the
mean-
list up there? On that?
Yeah.
screen? Can you, I can't see it, I'm sorry.
What bullet is it?
Stub,
I'll have to
it
admit, I
says
can't.
stub road and utilities at city standard, the fourth from the bottom. where
Oh,
the-
so, yeah, that's part of at the interchange coming in, there's a
Yeah, I-
250-foot segment of roadway that'll go southeast, mainly east off of Loomis. That's got to be in, I mean, maybe Jeff Katz can opine too, but that's,
Adjacent to a
To
state
the
highway.
light, controlled light.
yeah, signalized intersection, and there's a bunch of off-site work being done, but the totals are, but that's that stub road section going into to the east.
The 900,000 that you see on there is the turf parking lot,
Correct.
along with some of the Kapoor.
Some DOT too, yeah.
Okay. We are not taking possession of the entire industrial or
It's a
technology
private
parks?
road. That'll be a private road,
That's still a private road?
correct.
Yes.
We just need to be that city standard on that 250 feet, I believe.
Because it's a intersection with a state highway, there has to be just a small segment.
Yeah, I got that. I was afraid we're taking possession of that whole road.
Yeah, no.
I'll be
Oh.
dead
No.
by the time we have to put a new one in, but I still care.
Yeah, all private.
Okay.
So one thing I think that sort of gets lost sometimes, I mean, 84 South, when we started, it was worth $6 or $7 million, which is TID 6. TID 8 was worth $6 million. So a total of about $13 million of taxable tax base, right? Which we're still getting taxes on. I mean, that base is still there paying taxes. If you add up the numbers, and we have looked at these numbers and they're accurate, they're reported to the state, we're almost at $300 million of new tax base, or 280, 290, something like that. How much? It'll be 300. So
Gotta love
while this is
inflation.
complicated, I mean, this is the struggle that we have sometimes. It's like, well, this is complicated and Deb's expensive, right, and very good, and she's being paid for by him on our behalf. And while we do all of these things, right, we're leaving a legacy in the city of a tax base of 300 million when we started at 13, and by the way, we're still collecting the 13. So that's pretty good. So it gets complicated when we talk about Seventh Amendments, and we talk about the price of lumber, and we talk about the price of steel, and we talk about all of these things, and we talk about having to have huge lead times on concrete precast buildings and electrical controls and toilets and all this other stuff. And we talk about, you know, creating a turf, right? And trying to get some benefit immediately out of the $300 million of new tax base that we will once, you know, enjoy completely.
Well, the turf we had to do because we got the land for the price we got, so.
Well, we got the turf for $1,
And-
but to be honest, we didn't really have a place to park. He was gonna build and these are some of the other discussions that you may not, you know, the original parking lot was anticipated in the modeling to be about $300,000. This parking lot, and if you drive by today, the 90 stalls and the interconnectivity, we have created a destination for the Midwest's second largest skateboard park, which has historical underpinnings with Tony Hawk's turf card from 1980 is actually being auctioned right now online. I don't know if I sent you guys that. So this is like hallowed ground now. I know this isn't the Packers and this isn't any of those kinds of things which go back to the teens, but as far as skateboarding and this sport go in the world, this is a sacred place, and it's in our city. And through all of these amendments and all of these things and all of this posturing and all of the arguments and all of the, I can't believe you're doing this to me, discussions that we have, we've created something pretty special. So, and then we can start working towards expanding the skateboard park, by the way, someday, and be the largest skateboard park in the Midwest that has every single skateboarding feature there is. And there are not many skateboard places like this in the world. I mean, Jeff and I, we get the turf.org, we get emails from people all over the place that are just, and if you go there on any given night, probably, well, it's raining tonight, there's 50, 60, 70 people there. I'd encourage you to go there on Saturday, and I know I'm making this about the turf and not the hotel and all of that, but even the hotel, it's taken, well, every candidate, every person that's run against me saying, why don't we have a hotel? We should have a hotel. Why don't you get a hotel? Well, in order to get a hotel, you need a hotel study, right? And you have to spend 4 or 5 hours with a hotel consultant driving around the city explaining why we should have a hotel and why it will work, and look at this and look at that, which I did about a year and a half ago, right? Then she went to 84 South with me, and I think we had lunch at Cafe Zuper's. I bought it, she didn't buy it. Didn't ask for reimbursement, I get expenses, right? And she's like, this is like the kind of thing where it would be natural. She didn't say that right away. And I also asked about a hotel near the turf. And I took her over there and we saw the Mexican restaurant, which doesn't look quite as nice as it does now. And there was like an apartment and a half building there, and the Greenfield Coin Exchange is still there. And it didn't look all that. She's like, you know, maybe 3 or 4 years, this might be the place, but right now this isn't the place, right? So all of this stuff, and I can't believe we've been doing this for 10 or 15 years, it takes forever to do. But if you have good quality people behind you that have sort of the vision, that are kept in line, sometimes, by financial people with maybe cooler heads and legal people that say, no, you know, just not jump ahead there, right? Really good stuff can happen. And I think in this case, with both TID 6 and TID 8, we're properly leveraging things to make the city a better place in the long run and to survive as a first-ring community around sometimes a struggling bigger city, right? We have to do these things. For everybody that owns a home and everybody that owns property, we have to do these things to make the city a place to live and prosper. So what Deb asked,
Such a hard time with this.
why you?
I don't know. I mean, what we're looking at right here, I don't see how it's being funded from all the things we're doing. I don't see any of the funding going towards the assurance, back to Shirley's point, that this will get developed in this manner. I mean, it's great.
If you, so this is a,
This,
this
this
is the thing with the,
isn't
thing with the,
blooming.
if it's the hotel, if that's the part, you know, we're gonna do all this stuff and he's gonna do the best he can with the hotel. So it was going to be and I will generally say this, so if you don't object, or I can say whatever I want, kinda. If the president can, I can. So, sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
Can't afford to be sued like him, though.
While I'm sitting up here, I can basically say anything that, I mean, that's kind of the law. We have some sort of immunity while we're conducting business. I think that's still a rule. Ryan, can you verify that? There are limits, but yeah. But I'm not trying to get into that part. The point is that 3-4 months ago, it was going to be retail, and that's what it was going to be, and the modeling that we were gonna do was gonna be that. And I didn't like that. I wanted a hotel, in essence. And we had a hotel study finally that said we could have one. You can't get a hotel without a hotel study. There's no financing of it. You can't do it. You can't have, without that, you can't have it. Finally
Where in
had
this
it.
proposal are we seeing that there's gonna be a hotel
So
built funding that we're getting? Or are we coming back for another funding grab?
this is the matter of trust, because I have met, and Bruce met, the owner of the hotel chain, or one of the owners of the hotel chain, or one of the guiding principals, who is like, we want to be there.
You don't trust our president, so how can you trust this person?
Because he's not our president, he's a guy that wants to build a hotel. Because I don't trust our president sometimes. That is true. And I'm kind of a Republican-y kind of guy, and I've said that publicly. I'm sort of trying not to say that too loud, because we're in a purple community, but I'm also like to fish and I like the environment, and so I'm kind of a Democrat when it
So
comes to
this
that.
warm
and
fuzzy
education.
feeling from talking to this person,
So,
I'm supposed to get it too?
you're supposed to get what?
The warm fuzzy feeling you got from this hotel person?
I invited you and I invited Gina to go that same night, and I was hoping that you would go, and I knew you had other things going on and you couldn't make it. And I
Yeah,
knew
my
she
life's
had other-
complicated, but yeah.
So, and while we're straying from this, I have a warm fuzzy feeling, and I have a sense that, yes, this hotel is going to happen. The civil engineers are already working on the layout, as I understand it. They're already looking at the utilities. Part of this is, it's been laid out on the
I've
site.
seen some of the site plans,
The
yeah.
good thing is that the utilities are there, the parking is there. It requires a pad, and it requires to go vertical.
And no city funding.
And no city funding? What do you think we're talking about? Do you know how much it costs to build a hotel? It costs about $13 or $14 million to build a hotel. Do you know what the assessed valuation of a hotel is once it's built? 7 or 8, 7.5. This modeling assumes, so that other half, the expensive part, right? The equity pays for that. Part of it, the other part is coming from us to help subsidize the financing over the course of that. And that's what I hope I explained that right.
Did I miss the slide that shows that? I
We're borrowing from the equity valuation to be able to actually pay to do these things in the first place. Yes, there's some funding coming from the city for some.
Deb could probably
smaller
explain
things,
much
but
better than I.
That's inherently what's happening, is we're borrowing against the 226 million valuation to actually continue to do.
We're using the
That's going
increment that's
forward.
generated from the hotel and all these other sources to do what you're saying.
We borrow at a 20 or 30-year
I
period.
just
Deb,
don't
you can
see it. I
correct me,
don't
but I'm
see
pretty
the
sure that's
paper
right.
here.
Yeah.
That's right. So, and to your question about what happens with, there is no guarantee of a hotel. But what there is a guarantee of is that the projections and the revenue that we're expecting through the model will be there, because if they're not, Scott and his company have to pay that. Or you could levy special assessments, right? But there's a mechanism to make sure that the funding will be there. So if something doesn't come to fruition that we're expecting, we have a revenue source to make sure that that happens. So he has yet another incentive to make sure that we're actually bringing the development that you want to see.
It's,
How much are we giving to the hotel?
I'm sorry, what was that?
we're not giving anything to a hotel.
We're not giving anything to.
There's
a-
nothing in here that says anything about a hotel. All this says is that there's gonna be something there, it's gonna generate increment, and all of these interrelationships between 6 and 8 will work. That's essentially what it says. We're saying that if it's a retail building that's worth three,
$500,000,
3.5 million?
8.5, I think it is.
The retail is an 8.5, well, they,
think
so
that-
that's the parking lot is. So the hotel generates more increment if we can get it. We want to get it because it's worth more. It's 7.5 million versus 3, well,
No, it was about 5.5 versus 7, it was about 2.5 million.
it's $2.5 million more of increment if there's a hotel. And if there isn't a hotel, everything else on TID 8 works, right? The industrial buildings start going up and all this stuff happens and everything is good and the signals start going in and all that stuff, right? We're saying that the hotel is likely going to be the thing that occupies that site, and it makes the model kind of better, because there's more money in the model, because the hotel is worth $1.5 million, $2 million more, right? Does that make sense?
I'm still lost on how the hotel is gonna be built with money, because I don't see it being itemized on here. This is for
There is no,
stoplights.
pretend there's no hotel, we don't know what's gonna go there.
I don't even
It could
see
be
it
a
going to
trailer.
that
It could be
site.
a trailer park, but he's guaranteeing that there's gonna be the number gonna be there. Okay?
From the projections will be there, but what generates that, we don't know.
And how much money is gonna go towards, I see where
There's
streetlights are
nothing
being.
projected to go towards the hotel. If there was a hotel development, it would come back to you. You'll have to approve all the pretty pictures and the site plan, et cetera.
Well, I got that, but
So-
where's this money going back to that site?
There's not any money going back to the site.
So the hotel can
There may
build,
be
this is
money
where I
going back to
started,
the site
without
with
city help.
So if there would be any city help, none is proposed today. There would not be any unless the city would authorize that in the future.
So there's no funding from this move to fund a hotel.
That's correct.
We're just hoping something adds, so we can afford things that we've already approved.
So that, what this does do is ensure that the revenue that we projected in the model, including revenue from development on the yellow pad, will happen.
And Mike just told me it can't be built without having city help.
So, and if the yellow pad does not develop as anticipated, which right now we're actually using the lower retail projection number, then there's a shortfall covenant that will be recorded against the site. And if there's a shortfall in the revenue that's generated, Scott and his team have to write a check.
I don't think either one of those could be built without city funding. Hotel or
No
retail.
establishment was going to be built without city funding.
Retail is not proposed for any city funding.
It's not getting anything.
Yeah, we had all those numbers worked out.
The short for the hotels, and I don't want to get into all of this stuff because
It's too speculative at this point.
it is very,
If there was a hotel proposal, it might come back to you, and there might be a request for city funding, but that's not what we're asking for today.
We're asking for the hope that this gets developed so we can take the money from that development to fund something that we've already approved.
So TID 6 already has ample cash flow, ample increment that's been developed. $227 million of value increment is in the ground there today. The only add-on would be the yellow pad at 84 South.
all I can say is you have to trust me that it's going to work, and we spent days and days and days and days and days going through every single iteration that there possibly can, and everything that's in this agreement to do this, or the Seventh Amendment and the Second Amendment, is to make sure both TIDs get built out the way they need to. The hotel, so Scott, over the years, has promised a lot of things, right? No, and I'll just say, Scott, Cobalt, the team has promised a lot of things, right? They have. And sometimes it pains me to admit it, they've delivered on every one. Except a hotel. And Cafe Hollander or the beer thing on the corner, right? And neither of those were his fault. That's he has delivered on everything that he's promised. And there are no other, and I'm not trying to be like, oh, look at what we've done. We've turned 13 million into 300. And it could be 308 if it's a hotel, or it could be 306 if it's a retail center, or 304, right?
Can I add one
I
thing
mean-
that maybe helps too? Most of when there's TIF in most communities, the end result is the community gets a development, but there's not a something added to the city's balance sheet. But through the TIF, and this is kind of the struggle that it's kind of dawned on me as we work through this over the last, it's been like 5 months. Like I said, there was that $1.2 million that was, I think, out of the sewer fund. I don't know where it came from, but the city had spent those dollars at one point. So that got paid back. The land we bought, you saw it itemized, is about, I think, it was $2+ million. But when it all said is done, there's about $5 million of value going basically to the city's balance sheet to a parcel that's tax exempt where we can't create increment. So that's kind of created some of this gap. But the end result today is there's no additional transfer. So I mean, we're kind of talking about this transfer, but the transfer is not going up from what it has always been that was approved, a few years ago between TID 6 and TID 8. What's happening is we are creating more increment at 84 South, and then we're creating about 30 million of additional increment at Loomis. So all of those become the sources to make all of this happen. I can tell you with the hotel, I mean, short of something that just is outside of our control, I mean, we'll build the hotel there. And this group is local. He's based out of Neenah. I've spent months working with them, and as the mayor said, there was a hotel study that was commissioned that was paid for by the project to do both a study and then creation of a pro forma. I mean, in the end,
So what about Alderperson Castanier's question? Where can he see the money in all of this to build that hotel?
I don't know if I follow the question.
So I think that's your question, right?
Pretty much. Are you going to come back to us and ask for money for the hotel because they're this close to getting a
Yeah, I mean,
hotel?
yeah.
And we only needed to use the tax revenue from the hotel room in order to do it. Is that coming back to us because
It may,
because
yeah.
Mike
I mean,
wants a hotel?
No, I
And
mean,
I'll
it
say,
may,
yes,
yeah,
we want to do
right.
that.
Yeah.
But let's be,
Yeah, it might
put
be.
everything on the table.
Yeah, for sure, and no one's trying not to. We're just not to that point. As Debbie said, what we modeled in the current model does not include that hotel. It includes just the retail, but likely it needs some help. I mean,
So
yeah, I think that's
you're
right.
telling me the retail does not need any assistance
Correct, right. yeah,
whatsoever
Correct.
and can be built and will
But
be
the
built?
retail's not done, like I said, just to be clear, there's always something, right? And it's waiting on an approval. I don't think it creates the best, I think a hotel creates a better mix of sustainable
Oh, I agree.
uses,
But
but correct, that's right.
Who's going to pay for that gap in between there?
Yeah,
I mean,
well, I
this-
mean,
this could be
there is a
10
couple
years.
million, yeah, there's, 2.5, 3 million of additional value there that may be sufficient to cover that difference, and the hotel tax could cover some of that, and I'm not trying to we don't know yet, we're just not there.
I got you, but-
But yeah, it may need it. You're right, there's nothing in this model that funds any gap in the hotel's financial pro forma. That's accurate.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
This is my first blush of this.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, I'm asking.
No, it's a fair question, yeah.
Okay. My discussions with the hotel guy are is that he's very excited to be there, and his partner is very excited to be there. There's a small shortfall annually with regard to the financing models that they would use. Part of that depends when you look at the hotels too, and you go to a hotel and you say, I don't want, drive it, or what do they call it?
Yeah.
You don't want
If
that.
it's-
You want a better fixture finish. You want it to look better. Those are all per square foot things that go into a financing model, right? I mean, it's all of that. So we don't even have a picture, so we went to look at a hotel, and there were things that Bruce and I think, we said, well, it would look better like that, we did say that, right? And it's like, the guy's like, yeah, we can do that. We can do that. It's all different. We have construction people, we have contractors, we have, we can figure that out. So when you don't even know what it is yet that you're building, and the materials have an impact on the cost of the building, then it's hard to completely financially model it. But as I understood it, it's close. I mean, it's like really close. So that's all I could say, and I don't know if I've misrepresented anything or if I said anything improperly, but I think that's kind of where that's at.
I'm done.
Yeah, okay, I mean,
I got the answers out loud and
but that's true, because you can't answer yet. You can't, because you don't know what the numbers are
Okay.
completely. So okay. So I think that was item 32, and we're in 36 combined, and that was to discuss and take actions regarding the investment of public funds in Loomis Crossing and entering into agreements relating to such investments as delineated by our council tonight in the proposed 84 South Loomis Crossing Development Agreement amendments, which is Amendment 7 to TID 6 and Amendment 2 to TID 8, which are in process and substantially comply with the items as they're placed on this piece of paper. So we can call a special common council meeting if we have to with regard to these, if you want to see what the legal mumbo jumbo looks like, or you can be provided with copies of the draft agreements that we have that need ministerial changes, truly ministerial, I think, at this point. Everything has been agreed to, I think, right? To our satisfaction. Deb and I have talked on the phone way too much about this, I think, at some point. I feel very comfortable that where we are is good, and I feel very comfortable that the agreements that I've seen, the last draft, which was this afternoon, there were 2 of them, it's the 7th and the 2nd, were where they needed to be. There were a couple things that you wanted to verify with regard to covenants that needed to be filed. None of this stuff is effective until the things that are discussed on the status down below are taken care of. That's the checklist. So I guess I'm looking for authorization to execute the amendments that are consistent with the agreement amendments as identified in this memorandum.
I will make that motion.
By Alderperson Sarian, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Bailey. Under discussion, it's also just under discussion when it gets to the part of the hotel, which is pretty kind of exciting for most of us, right? Alderperson Cassier is absolutely right. There's still more to do, right? But there seems to be the resources within TID 6 to handle it at that time. None of that is being addressed with regard to this amendment at all. All of that, whatever the hotel might look like, what kind of treatment it has, all of those things still has to go before the site landscaping at planning, or planning, I like to call it planning commission. Others call it plan commission, right? All of that stuff has to happen, and any other further amendment, which could potentially be Amendment 8, right? With regard to the hotel would be coming forward in the future.
If we
Okay?
get to 10, it's called the Bill of Rights.
Is it 10 or 12?
First 10 amendments to the Constitution, Bill of Rights.
Oh, I didn't know that.
so we have
I didn't do
rights
that.
to get the money?
Huh? What? I kind of knew, that's why I'm a mayor and those guys are making $500 an hour, so,
You're an attorney.
or $350. Well, she makes really good, I don't know what he makes. I don't know, volume, I think. Okay, that motion was made and seconded, and just the minutes should reflect that we'd be coming back for any revision to the schedules with regard to the hotel, we would have to do that at some point, right? Or not?
We're not asking for any approvals for the hotel. It's not baked yet, so this is just to authorize the mayor
I-
and the clerk to approve
Why don't we
the
approve of-
final amendments.
You could- So this is, yeah, this is to whet the appetite that's coming, and we're working through that, and that TID 6 is gonna have even more increment, and the last parcel is going to be, likely built, okay? So don't vote for this, well, it includes a hotel. This isn't to include a
Nothing for the
hotel. But this was to show you what both things were doing and how they sort of intertwine, okay? So,
Well, now
motion
you
was made and
tell
seconded,
us.
yeah. Motion was made
I
and
voted
seconded.
because it included the.
I mean, I would ask the council,
Now you
because,
tell us.
because at the plan commission, there's always conceptual review, then site and landscaping and all that. I've been told that potentially, and maybe it's too late in the building season, I've been asked whether site and landscaping could go maybe directly to the plan commission on maybe an expedited basis. Maybe it can't, I don't know, right? There's still lots to do. Would you be okay with that?
Well, if it's happening that fast, why don't we wait till that happens? Then we can look at the final numbers and we don't need it.
Well, just,
We wouldn't need the 8th thing, we could do
Well,
it in
so
7
the
and
pro-
encapsulate all of it.
sometime.
And Deb's fees would be even less.
Sometimes the speed of government is very slow. And, it's like, well, we could, by the time this gets into the winter construction season, and by that, we should just wait until spring and then everything changes again.
I know, but.
I'm just saying.
Make assumptions.
Okay, motion was made and seconded. Would you please call?
Alderperson Juzwicki,
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey,
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner,
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Okay. So that's done. Thank you all.
So we'll go back to 33.
Okay, now.
Scott, Deb, thank you.
Okay. So now we have to go to, let me just cross things off.
Now we're gonna go in closed session.
All right, item 33 is the common council, we're going to have to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 1985, parent 1, parent C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and parent F, considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personal problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, except where paragraph b applies, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in any such histories or data, or involved in any such problems or investigations. The council will meet in closed session to discuss and consider actions regarding the investigation involving the chief of police, Jay Johnson, and to discuss options for the city to proceed. I brought this item. Is there a motion to go into closed session for those reasons?
Motion to return to closed session.
A motion to return to closed session by Alderperson Driswicki. Is there a second by Alderperson Bailey? Would you please call the roll?
Alderperson Juzwicki,
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey,
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner,
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian,
Aye.